Oh, there we are. We're live. So a little bit of lag time there between hitting the button and when it actually went live.
We're all just staring at the
Uh,
very beginning of this video.
Waiting. Okay, stop. Let's go beach ball. Hi everybody. This is the Band of Bards Comics Chat. Here with your routinely boring host Tim, and I'm joined this week again by Elise Russell. Oh my God, we're gonna start like this already. All right.
It's okay.
Oh God.
It's Friday. It was a long week,
It was.
you know.
So we're here with Elise and Jameson Alcorn, the writer of White Ravens. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
So far, so good. Still pretty early, but feeling all right so far.
We'll see how you're feeling now.
Are you
Exactly.
Eastern time zone or not?
Oh no, I'm on the East Coast, but
Oh, okay.
it's only 8, so who knows what could happen?
Oh,
Here and there.
you can tell I'm a parent because 8 isn't like
Well,
like
that's the thing. 8's the beginning of my free time, right? Like when
right.
kids are in bed, I finally get to do what I want for a couple hours. So I tend to stretch it for too long. So
Yeah, I do too. Is that
yeah,
when you write?
yeah, most of the time. I had a stint of trying to do it in the morning, and it killed me. I couldn't get to bed early enough to wake up on time to do it, and I was just dead for the day. So nighttime is when it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. Well, and you have to get up before your kids then. And if your
Yeah,
kids are like mine and they get up at 6, that's just not
Oh
happening.
God, you
yeah,
get up at 6?
Sometimes, yeah, I'll just be sleeping peacefully and then I'll feel a presence and I'll open my eyes and there's just
Just
hmm
staring at you.
looking over the bed, over the bed at me.
yeah. Just standing next
Hi.
to you. Are you awake? I am now.
Yep.
Yeah, I know exactly that feeling. What I was doing is I was getting up at my kids were getting up at my youngest would get up at 6, so I was like, all right, well, if I want to get any work done, I should probably try to get up at like 5, I guess.
Oh my God.
So I started doing that, but then my kids started getting up at 5 just because he could hear me like getting
Yep.
coffee and sitting down at my desk. So I was like, all right, well, if he's gonna turn this into a game of chicken, I lose, and I'm gonna go back to
You're
working
not going to
tonight.
go to
So
4?
yeah, no, I'm not capable. Even if I wanted to, I can't do it. So he won that one. I'll try again in a couple of years, maybe.
Yeah.
How old is
Ideally.
he?
So my oldest is 8, my youngest is 4.
Okay, well, once they hit like preteen and then get solidly into teen years, there's no chance of them waking before 8.
Yeah, I'll be all right by
Yeah.
then. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just got to survive till then. That's the only
Yeah,
thing.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. So we're about in
pretty
the same boat.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just about.
I I have a 5-year-old grandson.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So these conversations are always funny to me because I'm like, I'm so far past that.
You've lapped us basically.
Uh huh. Yeah. No, I started on second base in a way. Um, so I don't know. Nobody wants to hear about my all the kids, right? I don't know. So we're here. What are we here to talk about tonight? I can't even remember from this past week. Oh, everybody here is currently running a Zoop campaign. So we've
Yep, yep,
had
yep.
both started this week. Sentience was launched on Monday, and White Ravens was launched on Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday. Very cool. So I'll intermittently share those links there in the chat for anyone, and you should definitely go check them all out. But Jameson, you want to start off by just kind of talking about what White Ravens is all about, and we're gonna keep tally of how many times I slur that title.
Yeah. So the White Ravens is it's a medieval fantasy story. Actually, it's we talked about D&D a little bit already. It's actually derived from a live play D&D podcast that's 10 years in the running now. They're actually celebrating their 10th anniversary this weekend. And a couple years ago, a few years ago now, I got involved with the show, and I kept kind of putting it in their ear, like, wouldn't it be cool if we made a comic about this world, because it's got such a deep history at this point. And I finally got them to agree to do it. Not that they were resistant; it just took a while to get it all organized. So anyway, so the story of it is early in the history of this world. The origins of this rebel group. There's a large sort of fascistic power that kind of rises on one half of the continent and starts war with all these other civilizations, and is very sort of forceful, for lack of a better word, very xenophobic, very well, all the things you would expect from something like that. So there's this rebel group that rises up to resist them, and they're a major force in the way that the war turns throughout the course of the story of the podcast itself. So this comic is the origin of that group, how they got to be the way they are, how the person who is the leader of the group, when you meet them in the show, came to be the leader, how she met them, joined them, and later became the leader of them, because she's a very unlikely leader. So that was what we kind of wanted to dig into a little bit.
Neat.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very neat. So anyone who's been paying attention to the campaign then is going to recognize all the characters. And
yeah.
This is before the campaign then, so it'll be cool origin story stuff, huh?
Kind of, yeah. So it fills in the gap there's a time skip early in the show. Like, it takes place, the first dozen episodes or so take place in in whatever time they start in, and then there's a time skip of 17 years. So you meet the same character in both times, but obviously after the time skip, she's a very different person. And this story starts to tell a little bit of how she got to be that person after the time skip in the show. So the intention is very much for it to stand on its own 2 feet. Like, you don't need to have heard the show to be able to read and understand the comic, but if you do know the show, hopefully there's some extra payoff there too.
And what kind of person is she?
She's very very no nonsense, I guess. Very driven. The world that this is set in is a very consequence heavy world. There's nothing you can do for good or bad that doesn't have far reaching consequences, and she's very much a victim of those consequences. Like, the smallest decision made 15 years prior has had a major effect on her life and the way that she is. So she's very very easy. It would have been very easy to make her out to be a victim, but she sort of took that and took too much of it, because in the beginning of the story, she's very much a loner. We find a reason through her in learning to care about this group and the people in it. Hopefully we do too, as a reader.
So what's her skill set then? How does she fight? Is she a mage?
Yeah, so she's I guess the standard D&D term would be like a scion, right? Like, so she's got like a psionic type energy. It's not called that in the show because copyright reasons. But she's a type of I guess you could call it a type of magic, but it's very much emanates from the self rather than from arcane energy or prayer to gods or whatever the case may be. So and it's tied to emotion, right? So there's different types of these scions, and each one of them, not each one of them, but there's different types. Some of them will tap into a sense of calm, some of them will tend to tap into hatred, or think kind of like the Green Lanterns, right? Like, each one has a different emotional spectrum. And the way that she taps in is actually through anger. So that's a thing that she's constantly working on balancing throughout the course of the story as well, is anger at the things that she's been through and has to watch other people go through. And then when that tips over, obviously sometimes it can go too far. So
okay.
I'm gonna share. I finally got the screen share thing to work.
Oh, nice.
Oh, good job.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm a tech wizard now. I'm gonna share the campaign there.
Ooh,
So
there it is.
yeah, I don't know if there's anything in here you want to point out. Variant covers. I saw there's a couple variants that are really colorful. This This one right
Yeah,
here is
that was a
gorgeous.
recent addition. We got that variant done, and I was immediately. I was so happy with it. We made it into a poster too. So,
Very cool.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
really really nice. So the main character is Brianna. You can see her on the black cover, but
Hmm.
also central in the variant cover as well. Um, and some of the other things we have, you can see that yellow
Hmm.
title there. So the Dungeons and Randomness. I helped them a couple of years ago. They published a setting book for this world.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
that was one of the projects we worked on. But that book specifically is a supplemental module book of adventures set in this world that actually backers of that crowdfunding campaign helped to write.
Oh,
So it's a big. I think there's 10 or 12 adventures in there. One of them I wrote, but a handful of others from a lot of different people, very different types of adventures, depending on the types of D&D that people like to play, all set in the world,
Mhm.
and involving some of the characters that show up in this story. So we're throwing that in as a reward, as well as the only other previous comic that I've published myself, which is an anthology series, as one of the other
pub crawl.
rewards. The Pub Crawl, yeah.
That's very
Oh,
cool. I really like the cover.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm really happy with that cover.
Yeah.
Talk about something I
mhm.
wish I'd made a poster of. I might, I
Yeah,
might
it's
still
cool.
do it.
Yeah, it's never
Um,
too late, right?
yeah, exactly. I've still
I
got the
mean,
file.
as a
So
fan of pub crawls myself, that one caught my attention.
yeah,
So pretty
yeah,
cool. I
and
mean, you're getting a lot of comics for here too for the price too. It's like, that's one thing people always fuss over when
yeah,
you're trying to make the campaign up, right? Is like you need to raise the funds,
hmm
but you also want to be given a fair shake to anybody and giving fair value for the generosity of their backing.
hmm
Um, so yeah, I thought that was she had some really good stuff up here. I do want to point out to anybody who's not yet back to Zoop, if you whatever reason you want to support somebody, but you don't necessarily want any of the rewards, there's this tip jar. You can
there's
toss a
that.
buck in
Yeah.
there and adjust the quantity to maybe toss in a few more dollars. That's always a good option, and
hmm
it certainly is always appreciated.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, the mysterious benefactor. I chuckled a little bit when I scrolled down and I came to that, and I'm like, you know what? That's a damn good idea. Um,
Throw it out there. Why not? Yeah.
yeah, you never know, and there's no penalty for throwing another, you know, add-on or whatever up there. Like
Yeah.
it's not like the fee structures so that like you only get to put so many rewards up, and then all of a sudden you're, giving more money to the platform. Like,
Yeah, I wondered about
Yeah.
that.
no, um, it's a nice straight 10% that they take.
Hmm.
No kind of like it's not like a marginal tax rate where the more you have, the more you give.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tax day. Um,
Mhm.
right. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. And that was a good idea.
Well, I shared the campaign at work, and my boss is quite wealthy, so I was like, you know what?
Oh,
If he feels like throwing in a little bit more, then see how supportive he feels like.
very
Nobody's
cool.
bitten yet, but
Hey,
I'm holding out hope.
you know, it, these crowdfunding things are tough, right? Because
Yeah.
like as a creative person or just as like a generally modest person, it's really hard to get out there and toe that line between like feeling as if you're just badgering people and being annoying and
Yeah.
realizing that like you need to tell people that this exists,
Mhm.
otherwise they won't if they don't know, they'll never be able to decide whether or not they want, or like maybe there are a lot of people out there who do want to back something that you're doing, you know
Mhm.
a lot of people out there that might not be like big comics readers, but they're a friend of yours and they want to give you something in the tip jar.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, give everybody an opportunity
Yeah,
based on their level of
yeah.
investment.
So this seat at the table is kind of neat to me, especially even as someone who doesn't understand D&D. It caught my attention.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the seat at the table is just basically, like I said, this is all involved with Dungeons Randomness, which is a long-running D&D podcast. The dungeon master of that and the showrunner of the show, one of the only professional dungeon masters I've ever met. So obviously he's very good at it. I've
Mm.
enjoyed his games for quite a long time. So he very generously offered to run a game for backers at a higher level if they wanted to pitch in and get a chance to play in this world canonically with him, and so
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool
That's really
opportunity.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one that filled up is the opportunity for people to make cameo characters for the first issue. That filled up almost immediately.
Yeah,
so.
That was cool. It's always nice when people rush to that.
Yeah, I wish I could have opened it up for more, but I don't want it to just be like a parade of cameo characters throughout the back of every single panel in the whole book.
Yeah, there's a very strict balance you've got to strike with that. And figure out how many slots you can give where like a person will actually be able to see themselves and know that it's them, but also not have that as the focal point of a panel or a page or whatever. And
it can't detract from
the
thing that's going on. But yeah.
Now that was the conversation we had with Sentience. We have, I think, 10 slots to be drawn in as background characters throughout the book, and those are hard decisions because, for one thing, those are generally going to be something that really helps to bring in a nice chunk at once, make it take a nice leap towards your goal. But you can't get too greedy with that.
Yeah, you can't overpromise because then it detracts if it gets to be too much, for sure.
Yeah. Very cool.
Plus, then it's for the artists. They're staring at a bunch of pictures of random people all the time, trying to get their faces right instead of.
Yeah, and plus just coordinating it between all the backers, get everybody happy with what they have, and the extra character design work and all that. So.
Yeah. So
it's
a lot of fun, but the limit does make sense.
Yeah, for sure.
We got Matt in the chat. Matt's pretty frequent visitor to the Bardcast.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah. We all stand here awkwardly as we're all trying to read the chat. Yeah.
Promo art is very important, yeah. I'd recommend having as much as you can.
Yeah,
we're working on some more.
Yeah, we'll have, I think, a couple more illustrations for next week to unveil on Sentience, which is cool. But definitely is, I think, a challenge with the Sentience campaign is that it being an American light novel, there's, the folks who are used to coming and backing like a comic, they're expecting a lot more artwork, or they're a little bit thrown off that this is heavily prose, but there are some very large, like full page illustrations in there. It's just different. So there's maybe not as much visual stuff as they are expecting at first. And
right.
It each crowdfunding campaign presents its own unique challenges. Then that can be a fun thing that you've got to solve that puzzle. It can be incredibly frustrating and make you throw things sometimes. I'm out of stress balls this week.
Yeah. Danny is working on one with one of the giant spider people in it right now.
Yeah.
And Danny is terrified of spiders.
Okay.
So she's not pleased with me about this. And she knows that I'm terrified of pigs. So while she's working on this, she's sending me gifts of terrifying pigs.
Okay.
To make me pay for it. Yeah.
I think that's fair, to be honest. I think that is
I'm like, okay, I'll take this. It's okay. I deserve this.
Until the drawing is done, and then please stop. Yeah.
How did you find the artist for White Ravens?
I've actually had a lot of luck on Reddit, actually, finding collaborators. Most of the contributors to the Pub Crawl anthology I found through posting on Reddit, and Raphael, the main artist for White Ravens, I found that way as well. So it's a challenge finding, like, it's one thing to find somebody who's talented, right? But finding somebody who's got the interest and the availability and the skill set that matches is harder. So it took a while. We decided to do a handful of preview pages to make sure that everybody is on the same wavelength. And I mean, he immediately, as soon as he saw kind of the couple of we had another artist, this guy Roman, who does fantastic character design. We showed him a couple of Roman's sketches, and then Raphael immediately just started sending me more character sketches. It's like, okay, well, I like him. He's enthusiastic.
Yeah, nice.
So, but yeah, no, he's worked out fantastic. He does a lot of work in Brazil on comics there. So he like his Twitter feed is constantly just him posting for pages in progress. And I'm
Nice.
I'm not that prolific as an artist, so I always respect when somebody is, and he puts out a lot of work. So love to see it.
So you draw too, then?
I do, yeah. Not at the level where I'm going to be crowdfunding any of my own work anytime soon, but someday maybe. If I can wear more hats during this production process, maybe I will someday. You know.
Elise is not a bad drawer herself.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, she'll blush about it, but her sketches blow my stuff out of the water. That's for sure.
Okay. Do you do any illustrations for your own comics or anything, or just kind of for fun?
No, although I have been designing all of the fashion for Sentience.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I give that to Danny and I say, here, make it prettier.
This but anatomically correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. I cheated because
Oh, okay.
they make fashion sketchbooks with the figure templates.
Oh, there
So
you
you
go.
just
Okay.
draw the clothes onto the body. So I don't have to worry about one arm being longer than the other one. Or
Yeah, you've got it's a paper doll, right? That's kind of how it's.
yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Mhm.
That's cool.
See, that's smart though.
I'm curious with Sentience though. Like, so obviously you said like there's a lot of prose in there mixed in with the art, or I guess art mixed in with the prose. Like, what was the reason for the decision behind that? For how much of which to do or how to format it that way?
That was Chris.
I would say who's taking that one. That was kind of a joint
Yeah.
conversation.
Having
Okay.
it be a light novel was Chris's idea,
Yeah.
and I feel like you just have to be Chris by proxy now and answer the question.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody's got to be Chris, and it
Elise
can't be
pitched
me.
it to us, right? And I think you had initially thought of it more along the lines of like a full-on graphic novel.
Mhm.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't know what spurred Chris to think of a light novel, but he's much more into like the traditional Japanese mediums than I am. Like I don't turn my nose up at manga and anime. I don't. It's never been like a major thing for me.
Mhm.
Vampire Hunter D is probably like the one anime that I really really enjoyed, and then like otherwise I don't know. I'll sit there and
Yeah.
I'll nod and I'll smile and
Yeah.
cool. I'll watch it, but I'm certainly no expert. Chris loves the stuff, right?
Mhm.
So the light novel thing is more of a popular medium in Japan. They're typically like 50,000 ish words, and for like the teen and young adult demographic, the Sentience kind of fits into those age ranges. Certainly isn't something that right, a little older teen, right? We said young adults.
I wouldn't let like a
That's-
13-year-old near Sentience.
if you were like Chris and me at 13, sure. Depends on the appearance. You're giving me weird looks, but
I'm just thinking about some of the scenes and then thinking about a
Yeah.
13-year-old reading them.
gosh, we'll have a chat
13-year-olds
about.
get into some things.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about marketing and the demographics of it on the side. But it roughly fit into that right kind of category of who the light novels typically appeal to. And normally you're gonna look at like somewhere between 5, 7 to 10 illustrations in a normal light novel. There's a lot of great artwork. Danny's super talented, and we were like, that's a cool format, but we want like more art. We don't want to like go full on graphic novel, but there's like a lot of potential to kind of have fun with this and experiment. So the American part of the light novel is partly tongue in cheek, but we said, well, let's just supersize the art. we're Americans, so let's make it appeal to the American audience. Because we have folks across the pond and over in Australia and New Zealand who follow us, but certainly the bulk of Band of Bards customers are U.S. based. And honestly, Canada's not too much different from America. I'm sorry, guys. You got free healthcare, but you're pretty much Americans.
Americans with benefits.
Yeah, Americans with a little bit better healthcare. And, depending on which part of Canada, less guns. But anyway, I'm not going to poke too much fun at my neighbors from, I don't know, 10
So, there might
10
be a Canadian listening taking extreme umbrage right now.
Might be, but I mean, whenever when I was in the Army, my friends would always call me a South Canadian because they're all from the actual South of America.
South Canadian.
Yeah, they're actually from the Southern United States, and they'd be like, "You're from Buffalo? That's basically Canada." Whatever, man. Yeah, so again, the tongue. I ramble so much. The tongue-in-cheek part of it is that we'll have some fun. We'll make sure that it is somehow distinguished from a traditional light novel, and people understand there is a difference, and have a little bit of fun by making fun of ourselves as Americans, and because we supersize everything, we got to make everything bigger, like the Canyonero.
Well, I mean, I like the thought process behind it. It works for me.
Thanks.
So I think it makes sense.
More Danny art is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's mostly black and white illustration, but there'll be some sequential art in there and a little bit of playing around with limited color palettes, where the use of the color being mixed in kind of plays in a little bit to the advancement of the story without giving away too much stuff.
Nice.
Am I right, Elise? Because you're
Yes.
It's like you want to reach for the camera and punch me right now.
No, that's just my face. I have resting bitch face. It's just my face.
I mean, we even coordinated today.
Oh, I know. Except I have normal, healthy adult turtles, and you have.
What?
It says normal, healthy adult turtles.
Oh, there you go.
See,
Nobody
they're
likes
normal.
that. No.
Herpetologists do. And I
should have known
myself
better.
an amateur herpetologist. So.
I mean, I have to make sure I don't ignore all the comments in the chat.
I can't see the chat. What did I do
You
wrong?
can't see the chat? Sometimes
now I
it
can.
collapses and
I
stuff.
had it on private chat instead of comments,
Oh.
and now I can see. Aw, hello, everybody.
There they are.
Ooh. So Matt,
That's
you
just
went
my
down
face
to
there.
art school in Savannah. That's cool. Jorge Santiago Jr., who is the artist on Final Gamble, I want to say he may have gone to the same school. I know he instructs art down in Georgia now too, so that's kind of a neat connection. I've heard from a bunch of folks who have gone to art school in Savannah. Yeah. So I'm a terrible scatterbrain host. I should have prepared some better questions for tonight. But with the White Raven, White Ravens, that's twice tonight. I am keeping a tally.
You're keeping a tally?
I am.
What are you going to do with it, though? That's how many shots you have to take later?
No, I'm just going to remind myself how dumb I am. I could eat a chocolate for every time I screw up.
That's rewarding yourself.
Yeah, that's not a punishment. I mean, I'm not do what you need to do. That's fine.
It is.
I'm not
Yeah, we're
advocating
definitely
for
not telling you.
self-punishment. Yeah.
It is a punishment when I gotta buy another pair of pants.
Oh, that's all right. That's long-term punishment.
You'd have to have a couple boxes before you'd need a new pair of pants.
Well,
He's just like, what's your point?
that's the plan. It sounds like.
It's my favorite candy store. It's over in South Buffalo, South Buffalo. The folks there really liked it. It's like the Irish Cultural Center in Buffalo. And then there's
okay.
street signs there in Gaelic and stuff.
Neat.
Very cool. But they also think that they're like from South Boston, and a lot of them will walk around like trying to emulate that. So, some Irish rock just kind of pumped through my phone on random play as I was leaving the store. I'm like, yeah, even the phone knows where I'm at. You know?
Trying to keep you safe.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, this is good. This is you got to blend in.
Yeah. It's camouflage. You play Dropkick Murphys will keep you. Nobody will mess with you as you walk down the street.
Pretty much. You just walk down the road singing "Faraway Coast."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think I'll have another. Yeah. So, White Ravens. How long has this idea been kicking around for you? And like, what's kind of the longer term plan with this? Because it's numbered as number 1. So do you have like a set number of issues that you're planning, or is it kind of like, let's see how this goes and just kind of keep expanding it as long as the ideas are coming?
Well, a little bit over a year ago, we actually ran this campaign on Kickstarter, and it failed. and part of the reason was because we tried to kickstart the entire story in one big chunk, and that's obviously that's a much bigger book to pull off.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate for fair page rates for artists. So I was like, full professional page rates for everybody, but that inflated our number up, and we just didn't hit it. So
Right.
Last October, the guys at Zoop reached out to me to be like, hey, would you want to try again over here? And I was like, yeah, but not right now because everybody's busy. So a few months later, I reached back out to them and I said, what if we do it in single issue formats and make it more manageable, both from a funding and also from a production and fulfillment standpoint? And plus, it's nice to do, single issues sometimes. So that's the way we're doing it. It'll in total, it'll end up being about 4 issues worth of content. Not about, it'll be 4 issues of content, with the possibility of obviously expanding the story further if there's a following for it at that point. If we get 4 whole issues funded, I would hope there would be, room for more. But the story that's written so far, that's what it is. The story itself has existed for longer than that. Like I said, this is stuff that was addressed or hinted at in the podcast probably 8 years ago, and they never really got to tell the story. So the way it happened was, as I was talking to Jason and Brianna, they're the showrunners for this for the show, Dungeons Randomness, and I was saying, like, if we did a comic, do you have anything that you would want to address? Like, we can do literally anything, brand new story, rehash something from the show, something in between, and this was the first thing they said unanimously, is like, let's do this story. So that was what we did, because it's kind of like one of the big things that just never got told throughout the course of the show. So it's a long time coming for sure, and it was cool to be able to, because none of these characters are mine. These all existed way before my involvement with the show. So it was cool to be able to take that and write it. It feels a lot like, I imagine, like picking up a licensed property, like writing for the Transformers or the Ninja Turtles, or something, and trying to get those voices right in the relationships and establish something prior to most audience members meeting them.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's really
It'd
cool.
be fun to play with.
Yeah,
it's
a really big sandbox. There's a lot to
say
it.
That's the point where like you can almost get lost in the world that you're trying to write in.
Yeah.
And you go down one rabbit hole after another, and you're like, oh, we can explore this storyline, and then there's this subplot, and that would tie into this. And you're mapping out all these things and actually not getting any writing done.
Well, that's what the setting book was for. We get all that out of our system with that, and be like, the whole world is on paper now. Let's just pick a spot and drill down and find a story there.
That's really smart.
Neat.
Yeah, you can see the whiteboards that are behind me. That's a problem that I'd like to. That's a good way to procrastinate. Is you just start diagramming stuff and you're like, cool, I'll get
paralysis by analysis. My favorite hobby. Absolutely.
It's world building. It's fun.
It is fun. It's too fun sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, Jameson, do you play D&D then?
I
assume
do.
You do.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I get to play in my own time. Like we talked about, I have kids, so I don't always get to do that.
Yeah.
But I also play as a part of the cast of the Dungeons Randomness show,
Cool.
which I've been doing for almost like 4.5 years now, something like that. So,
And who's your character?
I've had a couple. The character that I usually play is a half orc paladin. His name is Larg, and
Larg?
he's most half orcs, at least in my experience. I apologize for anybody who's not a D&D person, but most half orcs that I've experienced in one way or another are very orcish, right? They're dumb, they're poorly spoken, they're barbaric. But this is one who prefers the human side of his lineage. So he wants to be like he wants to ignore the orca side. He wants to be human. So he's a paladin of a god of civilization. Like he very much tries to be the pinnacle of all those things. But he looks the way he does, so he doesn't always get to. So that's been the character I've played the longest for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about if this goes well, maybe we'll do another shoot off, and I'll be able to write that character and his backstory and origin someday. We'll do a comic.
That would be so cool to write a character that you've played before.
Yeah, I mean that's the dream, right? If you ever made a backstory for your D&D character, be like, man, I'll make a comic book out of this.
I did the opposite. I wrote Brunhilde, and then I used her as my character for a D&D campaign that I'm in now.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, yep.
That would almost make a kind of neat comic anthology too. Is everybody writing a backstory, a short backstory for their character and putting it together, and then you can like base an entire campaign off of that.
Another anthology idea. Oh my goodness. So many ideas.
See, I know just enough about the game that I can come up with some dumb shit idea.
It's not a dumb shit idea.
Oh,
it's fun.
That would be good.
Every time I think I got a dumb idea, someone's like, no. But
oh, is that what I sounded like?
I look like the baby from Dinosaurs when I do that.
Oh my gosh.
I just finished watching
I know exactly
that
what you're talking about. And
a couple weeks
seen
ago.
It in 20 years.
It's on Disney Plus.
I don't have Disney Plus.
Nah, if anybody does, Dinosaurs, classic TGIF series from the late 90s, mid or late 90s.
I feel like it would physically hurt to go back and watch that now.
You know what? The last season, it started, like you could tell when they're getting towards the last episodes, because holy shit, it starts to get depressing. In the last one, I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my god, I don't remember it ending so sad, this is terrible. And then
it ends sadly.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
They're dinosaurs. They go extinct.
Oh, I didn't know they'd go at that time period.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna totally ruin it for everybody.
I mean, it's been out for
warning: if you don't want the series Dinosaurs, classic Jim Henson production that it is, ruined for you. Fast forward like for 5 minutes. But
so I'm about to tell you for 5 minutes about
pretty
the
much.
death.
I'm really gonna tell them for 10 minutes and screw them all. No, but the last episode, right? It is basically a very fast chain reaction of climactic collapse, and it's so weird to be watching it now, because it's like all the stuff that is like constantly present for us now. It's being talked about by, like, God, they're not even animatronic dinosaurs. They're real people in the dinosaur costumes. It's really amazing how they put that all together. And it had to be so sweaty and smelly inside those things.
I was about to say,
it had to be like thick foam or something. But yeah, so they're just sitting there like realizing that Earl, like one of the main characters, kind of was responsible for the start of this climate collapse, and the company that he works for just like went full on ahead and didn't care about it, because like the Triceratops boss is like, I don't care, look at all this money I got, and he's just gigantic. The Triceratops, for some reason, is like a meat-eating, terrifying dinosaur, like 2 or 3 times bigger than the megalodon that Earl is. We don't need to worry about the specifics of all that and how inaccurate it is because they're fucking talking dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Like
like
that,
if that's where your suspension of disbelief
yeah.
is challenged, then you got problems.
Yeah,
Well, wait a minute.
but yeah, the whole last like scene and everything. There's the baby sitting there asking Earl and his mom like, what's happening? Why is it so cold? Or what's happening to us? And he's like, but we're all going to be okay. And they're like, sure, we'll be fine because we're all gonna be together. And then they all just turn towards the camera as it pans out, and you're like, they all just froze to death. Little baby
Someone in the
dinosaur
chat just asks,
Oh.
but the baby makes it, right?
Oh no, Dan! The baby's probably the first one to die because he's the smallest.
Man,
See, as I've always said, if you give me too much time to talk, we go down a depressing route. So that's why I'm
It'll
supposed to be
just
the.
come back to dying baby dinosaurs.
Yeah.
credit for making me sad about a show I haven't thought about in 25 years.
Well, so I guess the real point is I'm watching that and I'm just like it hits me, and then like so I finished that and I was still like not tired enough to go to sleep. I'm like, all right, whatever. Put the X-Men cartoon on. Didn't realize I was almost to the end of that. The very last episode of the X-Men cartoon was fucking sad too, and I was just like, no wonder all of us like geriatric millennials are so screwed up because like everything we grew up on ended on such a down note. Like, and it was probably by like a bunch of asshole Gen X people who were like, yeah, man, grunge is amazing. Everything's terrible. Let's make sure we screw up these kids too. And,
Well, it worked. They got
yeah, because look at me now. Congratulations, Gen X. You made me like this.
I hope you're happy, but I
Yeah.
know you're not.
Because anyone who can write a plot where a baby dinosaur freezes to death is just not a happy person.
Yeah.
No.
I hope that writer got the help they needed.
Oh. So,
Sometimes you just gotta
okay.
get out of your system. I don't know.
So this is what now I have to get back to asking the questions and let other people talk so that everybody's not running away screaming and crying from this. Let me share the screen again. I scrolled down to like get down to the artwork and stuff. Back and forth, back and forth. Clickety click click click. There we go. Yeah. Bad Neighbor Comics, is that your label?
That is, yep, that's me.
All right. Anybody wants to check that out? I will throw a link up in the chat.
What's the story behind why it's called Bad Neighbor? Are you a really bad neighbor?
You don't live
Probably.
next to
It
Rand
depends
Paul,
on who
do
you ask. No, I mean it's something. So I found out years and years and years ago that in the Crusades, I think it was the Third Crusade, one of the siege weapons that was used was called Bad Neighbor, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world, that there was a 1,000-pound trebuchet designed to hurl rocks into a city, and they named it Bad Neighbor. You don't think about people from that age being funny, but that was genuinely the funniest thing.
You
I
do not,
ever-
yeah. Medieval
like-
times, they didn't have
like
time to
Crusaders,
crack
they're the
jokes.
most humorless people in the world.
They were too busy dying.
Yeah, they're too busy being religious zealots who hated everybody and killed themselves and each other and everybody else. So, like, who knew they had a sense of humor? That was the funniest thing. So it just stuck with me as one of the funniest things I'd ever read historically.
Religious zealots and bankrupt people who were desperate to get some money and pay back their debts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were so religious and zealotry and zealotous that they went bankrupt.
I'm not going
and had
to
borrow money.
really derail this and give a listen on St. Francis, but sometimes we can talk about that.
But yeah, so it just stuck with me, and I started to, because I was in my 20s. I just used that handle, that tag on everything
That's cool.
I did at that point. So I always said that when I eventually started making comics, that would be the name that I used. No actual
Cool.
meaning behind it, except I always thought it was very funny in a really weird way.
That's
Well,
cool.
I like it. And now we can continue with the art. Sorry, I was just
Oh, I
curious.
said you walk us through what we're seeing.
Yeah, so this is the first scene, the first 6 pages of the comic. It's basically introducing first the two other major characters. So Brianna is the protagonist. She's the one you see in all the covers, and the two other major characters are Trius and Liara. They are at the time of the opening of the comic. They are currently the leaders of this faction called the White Ravens, and this is them sort of they're out hunting for food, but kind of the discussion that's happening at the opening of the comic is how screwed they are, right? Because they're running out of supplies, they have too many refugees, they're basically losing this fight, and they're kind of at their wits' end with it. But they get interrupted from that by the introduction of Brianna, and that kind of kicks the story off right away. And that's all. That's what these first 6 pages are. Is that first scene where they meet.
Very cool. I like this one.
Cool.
What happens here?
So without saying too much about it, basically they find Brianna alone, and the sort of the question of it is what happened here, right? That's part of the conversation. And
That's her in there.
That's her in that little smoking crater there.
Sorry, it's small on my screen.
Yeah, if you can read the dialogue from the inset screen. But all the
if
pages
you want to
are
read the dialogue, go to the Zoop page.
Yeah, you should be able to read it from there. If you can't read it, send me a message and I will send you the preview. Like, it's fine. But basically, long story short, they ask her, what happened, and she says, "I did," and ooh, what does that mean, right? But the course of the rest of the story is finding out exactly what that means and why she's alone, and and so on and so forth. Cool. So
cool.
they spend most of this scene trying to convince her to accept help from them, and she finally does. And then where we'll pick up once this is funded will be getting back to the camp and getting acquainted with everybody and so on.
Cool.
Neat. So she comes in literally with a bang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And start on action. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
What happened? I did.
You got some
like
close-ups there, the different covers. That
one cover makes me think of Ghostbusters.
This one?
Yeah.
It's got a bit of a Ghostbusters vibe. Yeah.
That's I like that. It's cool.
Very neat. Still, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of our backup artists for this book did the cover for that book. So,
is that a big sledgehammer?
It is, yeah.
there?
So on the cover of that is there's elements all over the cover to reference the 12 stories inside of the comic.
Okay.
So the hammer is related to one of them, and some of the others.
Always handy for a bartender to have a big sledgehammer handy.
Depending. Yeah, I mean, you said something about South Boston earlier. I guarantee you those guys. Behind the bar. So.
God, yeah. I would.
Yeah.
Cool. So you want to introduce us to the artistic team too?
Sure. Yeah. So Raphael, I mentioned before, he's the primary artist who did both the main cover and those 6 preview pages that you saw there. Rock Alves, he is the one who drew the pub crawl cover, and he's going to be helping us with interior art for this comic as well. Roman, I mentioned as the one who did the initial character designs for Brianna, also for Trius, and I don't think he did the Liara design, but Roman will be helping us with designs for the rest of the characters in the story, including hopefully the backer characters as well. We'll have to talk. I'll talk to him about that. But yeah, I absolutely love his character designs. And Rock and Roman both helped with all of the setting book work that we've done as well. So that's kind of how we got to know each other. Then Arthur has been a colorist for a bunch of things I've done at this point. He also helped with the setting book. I've done a couple of short comics with him. He colored both versions, both the variant and the regular cover. So that the variant with all the beautiful purples in it and stuff, that's all him.
Nice.
And then Jerome as our letterer, and he also did the title design for the story as well. And Jerome has at least 8 books constantly being
he's always got stuff
funded at all times. He's a very busy guy. So
yeah, he's definitely busy. He's a very talented letterer.
Yeah, he's very good. So but the entire team is people that I really have a good time communicating with, and I love their work, and they haven't gotten sick of me yet. So I'm going to keep working with them until they do. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Buddy.
Always good to get some recognition for the rest of the team too while we're out here.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's so many people who when you're making comics, you realize how many people are involved and how much goes into it. When you're not involved in that, I think it is really easily lost on the casual fan or just someone who maybe reads a whole lot and collects comics, but never really necessarily thinks a lot about the mechanics of it all. Like, there's just so much work that goes into a comic.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And just the planning of it.
Yeah. I mean, for something that someone's going to pick up and maybe spend 10 or 15 minutes reading, you're putting 6, 9, 12 months worth of effort into it.
Yeah.
And, that's just a 24-pager.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it'll pay off in the end. I mean, the scale of it is what makes it profitable long term, right? Is eventually you get to a point where you're able to sell thousands of copies of it, and potentially through crowdfunding you can do that. But now it's just getting your name out there and getting the work out there, and hopefully the volume will follow.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the trick of it all. Is you've got to be able to move a pretty large volume worth of these books.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm not gonna even go down that rabbit hole because I won't shut up about it. Nobody wants to hear me get on the soapbox anymore. I'm already depressed everybody enough for tonight.
Well, you thought the dinosaurs was
Dying
depressing.
baby
Let's talk
dinosaurs.
about.
Let's talk about comic book distribution. Oh man, very cool. I do need to make sure we talk about sentience for a few minutes. As we're winding down, we're getting close to our hour here. We usually have to keep this like an hour or so. I forgot to mention that before we went live.
Because then I don't fall asleep on my keyboard.
Yeah, I also forgot to mention that we end with a public service announcement because I was having really awkward sign-offs and I didn't know how to just end it. And it was Elise's idea to just do a PSA.
It was?
It was your suggestion. And I forgot to do
have a
it
terrible
last
memory.
week, so we've got 2 this week.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Real quick, I'm just going to flash the link there. It's in the chat, but that's for the Bad Neighbors website.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I just got that up last week. I'm very proud of it. Please go look
nice.
at it.
Definitely. Go check it out.
Yeah, I realized as this was coming up, I was like, I should probably have a website. Let me make one.
Very cool.
So,
Nice.
Yeah. I had to make my own website too.
oh,
And
God.
it took me longer than it ought to have.
Yeah, it's hard. I had
I
to
just
tap in. I
kept
had to
messing
get help.
up and
'Cause-
Mhm.
yeah. No way.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm glad that that's Chris's main responsibility, not mine. I've been able to kind of dabble into our website and slowly learn bits of it, like how to screw around on the web store, and hopefully without screwing it up and making more work for Chris. But
He just comes along behind you like those squirrels in Snow White, like cleaning everything up.
Yeah, he's just like a
Kinda.
dustpan as you go. Yeah.
yeah,
It just follows you.
yeah. I get a bright idea and I don't realize that I actually just created like 40 hours of work for him.
Oh,
Like, oh, this can't be that hard.
I'm just having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so very cool. Both of the campaigns launched this week, both the White Ravens. No slurring that time.
There you go.
no chocolate for you.
Actually,
Oh, he's having one anyway. He's cheating his own rules.
because I am an adult and I
Yeah.
like my own rules now. I can have pop before noon if I want.
Ooh.
I do that every day.
I was never allowed growing up to have pop before noon, and it actually created this like mental block in my head that pop before noon unless I'm feeling like kind of groggy and I want the bubbles, it turns my stomach to even think about it. Weird.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
Thanks, mom
that's
and
so
dad.
weird. I have one at like 10:30 or 11 pretty much every day because I don't like coffee.
Oh, well, yeah, that'll do it.
How
Yeah.
else am I supposed to stay awake for my children, to keep them alive or whatever?
Cocaine.
I still have a cough.
Mhm. I am from
Damn it,
Buffalo,
Tim.
the home and now permanent resting place of Rick James, so it's a go-to answer.
I mean, go with what you know for
Yeah,
sure.
pretty much. It snows a lot here. Anyway, throw up the sentience link there for everybody to show. Like I said, American light novel, something different. Maybe, hopefully, not too different for people to kind of wrap their heads around and enjoy it if you're a comics reader. But
There's a lot of pros, but I do my best to keep it chugging and
yeah,
keep it
I mean,
action packed and
just because it's prose doesn't mean that it's like an academic paper. I know, like, the words aren't in little bubbles and in chunks of like 35 words at a time, but no, I think it's a story that can easily be identified with in terms of like having those toxic relationships and having a manipulative parent. I don't know, you've designed a really neat world, a lot of like interesting characters that I think there's a lot deeper story in there than I'm really even able to grasp and probably communicate. So,
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, before I knew we were even doing this, I already backed it. So because it
Oh.
looks interesting as
Oh,
hell to me.
thank you.
So
I
yeah,
was
I mean,
planning on backing. I was
Yeah.
going to tell you I'm going to back White Ravens right
oh,
after
thank you.
this.
I see.
I was
Okay,
gonna,
thank you.
I was going to end on that, like, okay, folks, I'm going to go back White Ravens, and you should
Oh,
too.
I stepped on the lead. I'm sorry. No, but I
No.
did.
It's okay.
Before I realized, I was like, oh, we're going to do the call together. That's cool because
Mhm.
I've already backed this. It looks cool as
Cool.
hell to me.
Thank
So
you.
Well, thank you.
yeah,
I'm
got
gonna have
that
to
rad
double.
looking pin too.
Yeah, I need to double check because I'm certain I backed White Ravens because I looked at it and I saw these covers. So I was like, yep, that's it. It is one thing I'm
Add to
still getting
cart.
my yeah. I still have to go back here and there, and go back to the backing history to make sure. I've got it. I had these windows open in Chrome because you have to use Chrome with StreamYard, and I usually use Safari. So I have like Safari and Chrome open, and they both have like dozens of tabs. And right now, I'm just gonna break something if I try to like go back and sort myself out here.
Just rewind time for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, this is too cool of a story to not back and get, and tell you that variant cover is, if that's not already cashed out in the shopping cart, that will be. That's
I was never a big believer in variant covers. Like I don't like to get it too much into gimmicks and stuff. But I was like, all right, we'll do one, whatever. And then I
Yeah.
got it, and I was like, okay, well, I understand now because this is really cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm gonna do that more from now
You
on.
have to be judicious with them, right? Because
Yeah.
they are a significant cost increase, and you've got to be certain that you're gonna get, it's gonna be worth it. You might not sell enough copies of it to completely get all that back, but then there's also a little bit of like marketing value to it.
Yeah.
And look at me, back to the boring shit. But like, those are all the things, right? Those are the decision making processes that go behind crafting these campaigns. And when you're the writer on the book, a lot of times you're also, de facto project manager. I think that's a very underappreciated thing with indie comics.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
Not everybody has their own editor on their
Yeah.
their personal
because-
project. So
Yeah, if you were actually chopping the book, or you had that book with a publisher, or if you're doing work for hire to a publisher, like that falls into the editor's wheelhouse. That's their job to think of all those things. You just need to write, or you just need to draw, or color, or letter. Like, when you don't have the benefit of that extra support there, you're having to take on so much stuff, and like it's a large task. It's super impressive to ever get just a single book out there, and like I said, I will always talk that part of it up because people don't get enough recognition for those successes.
Yeah, it's worth it though. It feels good to have it in your hands at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I can't be told.
it's great.
Pet it
It's
like
pretty
a
great.
kitty.
I keep a copy in every room in my house. Every time I walk into a room, I see it there. It's just sitting on the shelf.
All right. Too many chocolates.
Oh,
Now before we start to wrap it up, I'm just gonna throw out there any last questions out from the crowd, or any other things that I maybe did not ask enough good questions about that you want to talk about, Jameson?
we covered a pretty good variety of stuff. I got to talk about D&D. We talked about the podcast. We talked about
Yep.
the comic
dinosaurs.
itself. Yep, we talked about some dead dinosaurs.
As one does.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, no, I
Friday
mean,
night.
yeah, it's Good Friday night. You know, I'm grateful to everybody who's given the project a look, and to you guys for sharing your airspace with me. This has
Yeah.
been very cool.
Happy to have you. Thanks for coming on. Speaking of dead dinosaurs, I have a bunch of plastic right here. What?
Is that a tambourine? What is that?
The dinosaurs got
That's
turned
a
into oil, and the
smoke
oil is now
Okay.
Tampering. Although everyone was
Dinosaur
going to have a tambourine
became
in their
oil.
office.
Oil
Listen, I
became
don't
cloth. Yeah. But yeah. So like I said, 2 PSAs tonight. Anybody tuning in for the first time, I'm a volunteer firefighter here in my town, so the PSA you're getting isn't a load of bullshit. This is genuine stuff that I actually am qualified to speak about. First thing, very short but simple old lesson. Close before you doze, right? That's a kind of an older saying, but I think it's something that it isn't really said a whole lot. Basically, close your damn door before you go to sleep, because it will save your life, to very bluntly put it. So if you ever, you can actually go online.
Who leaves their door open when they're going to go to, like, the
don't
front
know.
door of their house?
No, your bedroom door. You should have.
I
hope
always
you,
leave it open so I can
I
hear
hope-
my kids.
Oh, that's understandable, right? But
I get a pass.
yeah, well, no, you don't. You're still wrong.
Oh,
You're just
okay.
half
But
wrong.
understandably wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like doing something that you get fined for. It's not illegal. It's legal for a cost. That's a message that is not endorsed by Band of Bards. But yeah, so you close your door when you go to sleep, because it will keep out the smoke, and it will actually keep fire from entering your bedroom for quite some time, especially if it's like in an older home and you've got those very solid wooden doors instead of like the thin filled doors. But even those like newer prefab doors, they're like really thin sheets glued together, they'll do a good job of keeping smoke out of your bedroom and help you stay alive. So it's actually quite impressive to see some pictures of after the fire's done, to see the smoke damage like in a hallway and how damaged the outside of a door got, even if it, to a point where it's on fire and it's been charred. And then you look at the opposite side of the door and it's completely perfect.
Whoa.
Yeah. So closing your door at night can save your life. What can also save your life is having working smoke detectors. We talked about it before, so I'm not going to belabor on it. But the thing, so this is one I keep in our laundry room. It's a smoke and carbon monoxide smoke detector. It's these newer ones. They're like sealed lithium-ion batteries that last for 10 years. So, and when it starts to beep, and you just chuck this one in the garbage. It's not like a hardwired combination thing. It's just an easy one to throw in wherever you may have a gas leak and need to look for carbon monoxide. But what people don't realize is that these expire, right? You'll generally have like a label on it that says 5, 7, or 10 years, and on the side, you should write down where you can clearly see it without having to remove the thing when it expires, so you know when you need to replace it. So there's your double dose of a PSA tonight.
Okay.
I'm gonna go check.
No, I once had one of those things go absolutely nuts on me, and I couldn't stop it. The beeping wouldn't stop. I tried.
That's
I got really dumb with it. I'm like,
oh
I like hit it with things, and
no,
then I
that
tried putting it in a bucket of water. And I'm like, shut up, you.
this is
But when it goes
This
off
is-
at 3 a.m., you're not at your best trying to problem solve.
so mini PSA. That means it's dead, and you need to buy a new one. When you replace the battery and it still keeps beeping, that's when it's reached the end of its useful life. And it may not actually reach that full 10 years or 7 years or whatever. So if it beeps and beeps and beeps, and for some reason you can't see the instructions on the back anymore, but this will tell you that when it's
They're hard to
beeping
read when you
and how
smash
many...
them.
Push test button.
Fuck yeah. I hit something. Yes, this is going off the rails. Anyway, when it keeps beeping and beeping and beeping, and you've replaced the battery and it's hardwired and it keeps beeping, it's dead. You need to put it in the garbage and get a new one.
But it keeps beeping in the garbage.
Confuse your trash man.
Yeah, you should be able to remove the battery and take the power source out, and it shouldn't beep anymore after
You know,
that.
it was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I had just had a baby, and that baby was squalling.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
makes
I
it hard
just
to
need
problem
to get
solve.
this thing to shut up.
It's the hidden watch battery in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Live.
All right.
Yeah.
You can put it outside. But yeah. Or anybody who's ever confused about that, that's when they're
Don't
dead.
do what I did.
No, take your dead one with you to the hardware store so you can try to buy at least the same brand, because just in case, like if it's a hardwired one, it's got a different kind of like connection in the back. Because when you buy them, it'll have like an extra connection that you can wire in there. But if you just buy the same brand, it'll have the same little plug, so you don't have to screw around trying to rewire something.
Yeah. Okay.
Lots of PSAs tonight,
Practical life skills
and
too.
I scared myself.
And me.
Yeah, and my dogs are probably all shaking now.
Oh.
Yeah, bad Tim. All right. So with that, I'll bid everybody adieu. No Bardcast next Friday. We'll be back on the 29th with Dan Bambila and his book Under God.
All right.
Yeah, we had talked about possibly him scheduled for this evening, and then we realized it was Good Friday. And I was like, that might not be the best day.
Oh.
So I'm excited to find out what exactly Under God is about, that it would have been a bad one to talk about on Good Friday. So, Good Friday and Passover today, right? Yeah, Passover began. Cool. If you're celebrating, happy religious holiday.
Jeez, Tim.
I'm wearing this thing. I don't celebrate. So, look at that. Dan's still here.
Heck
All right,
yeah.
Dan. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Heck yeah, Dan. Good luck.
All right. All right, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Hmm.